And welcome everyone to today's webinar, What's New with Britannica School? More Than You Can Imagine. My name is Chris Heintz. I am the Director of Customer Experience here at Britannica Education. I've been with Britannica for about 3 years, really working to help our customers make sure that you have the training and support necessary to get the most out of these resources. So I'm happy to share today some really exciting developments to Britannica School, as well as some other resources that I'd like to share with you. With me, I have my wonderful colleagues. I have Mike Benson, he's one of our customer experience managers, Christy Bengali, our curriculum learning specialist, and Jeremy Spencer, our director of product development. And our team is here to answer any questions you have. So again, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll be more than happy to answer them live and make sure that we are answering those questions in real time for all of you. So what is new with Britannica School? That's what we're going to be talking about today. We'll go through a quick tutorial of the Britannica School resource and share some changes that you can expect to see within the next week or so. Then I'm going to introduce a new resource that is coming in September called Teach Britannica. And this is really built to help bridge the gap between Britannica resources and classroom practice. So something that we're really excited to share with all of you as well. And then finally, we'll have some time at the end for some additional Q&A and follow-up items. So if you have any burning questions at the end of our session here, please ask our panel of experts and we will do our best to respond and get you a good answer there. Like I said, I encourage you throughout the presentation. You don't have to wait for the end. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We will be here to help answer those live. And just please feel encouraged to share widely, that what you have to share may be exactly what someone else needs to hear, may trigger a thought that another one of your attendees may have. So I would encourage engagement in the chat throughout today's session. So really quickly, I want to do kind of a high-level overview before I jump into the resources and give you a live tour. So what we're going to be focusing on today is at the Britannica School early elementary level. I will share some new resources and new page views that are going to go live next week. So the big thing with early elementary that you can expect to see if you are an early elementary subscriber is the introduction of an English-Spanish toggle on all of our early elementary articles that really allows for seamless translation between English and Spanish. We are going to be adding additional articles as well. And then in September, you will see an upgraded page layout with media galleries and inline visuals. So those changes are coming a little bit later, but what we'll preview today is really the English-Spanish functionality. Then we'll jump into the elementary and middle tiers of Britannica School, and I'll give you an overview of what our new article format looks like and our new interface here. So we've really designed this to make things easier for students to process. We've included some features like a new easy-to-use navigator that includes all of your sharing tools, as well as an easy way to adjust the reading level and navigate through the article. We've redone the way our articles look, so we've included a new media gallery at the top of all of our articles, as well as some inline visual overlays. And then we've actually reformatted the way that our articles are presented as well. So our editorial team has worked really hard to update the content, allow for kind of easier navigation of content within an article, including things like bulleted list and fun facts to help break up the text. We've chunked the sections so that it doesn't look like a wall of text when students log into Britannica School and encounter our articles. And we've also included some inclusive features, including an open dyslexic font to improve accessibility. So I'll show you what all of that looks like within the platform as well. We've also introduced a series of interactive features. So these are accessible both through articles, through some of our inline media, as well as an interactives browse on the home page. So I'll show you what these look like, but we have a lot of really nicely developed interactive features. This includes geographic tools, interactive maps, interactive slideshows, so there's really a lot of nice stuff that our team has put in to really drive engagement with Britannica content. And then finally, we'll jump into a different resource called Teach Britannica. This is coming in September. So what I share with you today is not quite ready to be released, but you will get an advanced look at what this looks like. And like I said, we'll have this is really designed to bridge that gap between Britannica's resources and classroom practice. And we base that around 3 different types of materials. We have our lesson minis that are really flexible lessons that can be used to enhance personalized learning. We have instructional strategies, which are even more flexible and provide some effective techniques for students. And then our graphic organizers and visual aids. So I'll share what all of those look like as well. So let's stop talking about it in the slideshow and let's jump into the resource itself. So if you are a current Britannica customer, this probably looks pretty familiar to you. And this view is not really going to change. You will see this welcome to Britannica School, and then you will see the landing pages for all of the resources that you are subscribed to. Early elementary is a separate tier from the elementary, middle, and high school levels of Britannica. So I will demo this first. Early elementary is really built for students in grades pre-K through 2. It's a much less text-heavy interface, really designed for students to browse and explore. So when I come into the early elementary level here, one of the things you will notice, we do have a search bar up here at the top of the page. You can click on this little search icon, and students can either type in or their teacher can help them type in a keyword search. But we don't really make that the focal point of the homepage because we do want students to go into these sections and really browse to see this content. Like I said, much less text than what you see in the upper levels of Britannica School. We also have some accessibility tools here. If a student wants to hear the title of this topic read aloud, they can click on the sound icon.
Animals.
And they can hear that read aloud so that they know exactly what they're going to be looking for. They can then browse subtopics, and if I hover over this, you will see this kind of overlay fly in with the title of that particular subtopic. And then I can pick from these different articles here as well. So like I've kind of been demoing, I'm a dog person, so apologies. I don't want to offend any cat people, but I am allergic to cats, so dogs it is for me. But today, we've gone into this article here. We have all of our image content, any associated videos will display on the left side of the page. The articles are written at a very low lexile to help students with these emerging reading skills. We do have a read aloud function here. So if you click on read aloud,
A dog is a furry mammal.
it will read that content aloud for the students as well. The big update, if you are a current subscriber, is that when these changes go live, you will see this English-Spanish toggle. If I click on the toggle, you'll see this seamlessly translated into Spanish. And if I click on the read aloud,
El perro es un mamífero peludo.
you'll hear the read aloud function works in the Spanish format as well. But we do have the same sharing tools that you have within the upper levels of Britannica School. So again, quick preview, but this is what you can expect to see in early elementary starting next week. I'm going to jump into these upper tiers here. So the elementary and the middle level are getting updated and refreshed with the format that I shared in the slideshow there. The high school level is not getting the same treatment. So the user experience at high school will stay the same. Users will still encounter the same articles. They'll be able to access the material the same way that they have in the past. But elementary and middle are getting kind of a new look. A lot of the tools that we're developing here are developed specifically to help younger learners and make the content more appealing and more accessible to them. So let me go into the elementary level first. You will see the same look that you have with the current homepage, search bar up here at the top. And if I scroll down on the homepage, the only thing that you'll see is different is this interactives browse feature. So if I click on any one of these icons here, it will take me into this interactive browse. And this is where you can really engage with this interactive content. So like I said, some of these are interactive slideshows where you have different images that are produced and then additional content that flies onto the screen as well. But again, really engaging content here and getting students to engage with the Britannica material. We also have, if I go into some of these later versions here, we do have some quizzes involved. These are also accessible through the articles themselves. So you will see this as inline interactive content within the article about Neptune here. And if I take this quiz, it will ask us different questions. I got that one wrong. But it'll tell you then to kind of correct your answer, let you know if you got it correct or incorrect. The information here is really just designed to be drive more engagement with the text. It's not used and then put into grade books or anything like that, but this content is accessible in the articles as well. So some of you knew this, but as I mentioned in our pre-webinar trivia, Chicago is the headquarters of Britannica. It is also my home state, so I will use Illinois as our jumping off point here in the search. And when I do a keyword search, this is where you will see kind of this new interface in Britannica School. The search functions the same as it has in the past. It's just got a refreshed view, a new color scheme built to engage younger learners. But you can still search all of our content here. You can search by different reading levels as well. So if I change this to reading level 2 or 3, you can search the middle and high school content as well. You can also access any related images or videos or some of the additional content here, including our web's best sites. Now, if I go into the article, this is where you will see kind of a pretty different view, right, of the content here. So the articles themselves, as I've mentioned, they've been refreshed, they've been redesigned to really, again, make them engaging and make them easier for students to process. So there's really 3 key areas. We have an image gallery up here at the top. This allows students to browse any images, interactive features, or video content that is highlighted within the article. And if students find an image and they want to see where this is displayed within the article itself, to find more context for why our editorial team chose that image, you can click on Jump to Article, and it will open the section where that piece of media is highlighted. Any one of these images here, if I click on this, you'll get the larger, higher resolution view. This is actually taken from right in front of our office, right on the LaSalle Street Bridge. And if anyone's ever seen the movie The Dark Knight, this was when I lived in the city of Chicago. This always reminds me of that movie. It's always prominently, the Chicago Board of Trade is prominently featured in a number of scenes in that movie. That's neither here nor there. You can tell I'm a social studies teacher because I tend to go off on these types of tangents. But all of our content is accessible in this higher resolution view. You can also access all of our sharing tools here. So if I wanted to send this, if I want to save this as a piece of media for me to return to later, or utilize the citation tool, I could do that directly from this page. Next, we have our article features. And like I said, the content is much more chunked for students. One of the pieces of feedback that we did receive from a lot of our users, especially at the elementary and middle levels, was that when students would come into an article, it was a lot of text, right? And even if this was a low Lexile article for elementary students, it was a lot of text for them to see on the screen and scroll through. So we've chunked this. We've reformatted the way that the information is presented. So in this article, you see a quick facts section here, gives you some just kind of basic information about the state of Illinois. If I click on introduction, it will close the previous section and open the next one, which allows me the chance to go through the information at my own speed without overwhelming students with the amount of text in front of them. We do still have our features here. If students are unsure of what a particular word means, they can double click on that word and get the pop-up. We call that our double click dictionary. So they can get the definition from our partner company, Merriam-Webster, can have the English translation, the pronunciation. Didn't work for me there. And then the Spanish translation as well. And again, remember, this is a preview environment, so we are kind of working through a few things here. But as I scroll down, you can see all of our inline media. We have our interactive features here. And then we have a couple other features, a lot of bullet pointed lists to really provide summaries for students. Fun facts, we have some did you know sections in here as well, right? And all of these are really designed to present students in an easily digestible, easily processed way. The last big change I'll focus on here is our navigator feature. So this is where you have the ability to change between reading levels. So if you're teaching a student in elementary and they're interested in more information about that topic, or they're reading far above grade level and you want to give them something that's a little bit more challenging, they can click on reading level 2. That will take them into the middle school article. You can see middle school does have the same format, but a little bit different interface here, kind of geared towards a little bit older audience. You can then navigate up to reading level 3, or you can navigate back to reading level 1. So if you're a middle school teacher and your students are really struggling and could use the elementary text that's a little bit lower Lexile and easier for them to read, they can click on reading level 1. It will take them back to the elementary content. However, it will leave them in the middle school interface. And this is an intentional design. We don't want students, if they feel like they could use that as a scaffold, we don't want them to feel stigmatized from using that because all of a sudden their screen looks different than their peers. So we make sure that we keep them in that middle school interface as they move between those levels. Highlighting a couple features here, so you can click through and go through each section just by clicking on the navigator feature here. Again, you also have your accessibility tools here. So we have the citation tool where you can see 4 different styles of citation and copy and paste that into a bibliography. We've changed the verbiage on saving information here. This used to be called favorite. We've changed it to save, and we've put this little bookmark icon here. This goes into a My Britannica account. So if you create a free My Britannica account, you can save content for easy viewing later, as well as curate that information into resource packs that you can share with colleagues and students. If I click on send, you can email this, save to Google Classroom, Google Drive, or share through Microsoft Teams. And then you can print a copy as well. If I go to my second page here, this is where we can adjust the font size up or down as needed, utilize our translation feature, which will machine translate this into over 100 languages. And then we've introduced this open dyslexic font as well. So if I click this icon here, all of the font will be changed into an open dyslexic font that is easier for students with dyslexia to process. Last thing I want to highlight here is this slider down at the bottom. So if I'm looking for additional content or information, I can click on related and I can see 2 things. First is a list of related articles that provide some more information and connect to the article that I've been reading. And then the teacher tool here, which gives us the Lexile measure and allows us to see state learning standards that are correlated with that particular article as well. So I will pause there. Mike, I know you've been monitoring the chat and the Q&A. Are there any questions that have come up for us to address before we move on?
We did get a question about the early elementary and if everybody will be able to see that, or is it an add-on?
Yeah, so early elementary is a separate subscription. It can be included with a elementary, middle, high school subscription as well. But it is an add-on. That is something that our team, if you reach out to our team, we're more than happy to have that conversation with you as well. But it is kind of a separate tier of Britannica School from the elementary, middle, and high.
Thanks. That's the only question we got.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let me move on to our last piece here. And this is one that we are really excited about. I think with Teach Britannica, a lot of what we hear from folks is our library media specialists know Britannica. They know how to use it. They know how to work with students really well. But classroom teachers don't always have that same kind of warm, fuzzy feeling about Britannica as a classroom resource. So Teach Britannica has been developed to really help to bridge that gap between the Britannica resource that folks have and the trusted information in Britannica with classroom practice. So our team has been working really hard on this to make sure that we've provided these resources that are flexibly implemented and easy for students to use. Again, this resource will launch with our September release. More information to come there. We will share a specific date when we have when we're a little bit closer to launch there. But you can expect to see this in September. And the nice thing that we've done here with Britannica School in particular is we've broken down these resources by early elementary, middle, and high school. So folks that are using this can see content that is really aligned to the content that their students are seeing in Britannica School. So I'll use early elementary as our jumping off point here. And like I said, we start with our lesson minis. So these are designed to be flexibly implemented. They are full lessons that can be implemented with students with lots of different activities that can be shared. So let me show you what one of these looks like. So we'll go into our fun, furry, feathered friends lesson mini. We'll kind of level set with what grade level this is built for, the topic and the unit up here at the top. All of this content is printable as well, so you can print this out and use this with your students. You can share it with your colleagues, use it as subplans, stuff like that. So we have some ideas for implementation here. We have our key vocabulary and definitions. And then we have some authentic learning extensions as well. So how can we extend learning beyond this lesson in the classroom? So there could be some project-based stuff, some field trips, interactives, ways to take these concepts and topics and extend them beyond the time that you have, face-to-face with your students in the classroom. Then we have our different activities. So again, this lesson mini has 5 different activities that you can use with students. They can be implemented together, or they can be used independently of one another. But for each one of these activities, you will see materials and resources. Some of these actually link back to Britannica School content as well. So where we're talking about animal artists, we have articles for cat and dog to give students some additional information. And I know I did dogs earlier, so I do want to be respectful of those of you that are cat people. So I'll share the Create a Cat handout here. And this has been built for students to really illustrate these concepts and share this information out that they're learning from Britannica as well. Down below that, we have our implementation here. So we share kind of some steps that you can use to implement this lesson with your students. We also have some tips for differentiation and variation for different student groups. And then finally, at the bottom, we also have some tips for how you can use this in a team teaching environment as well. So really trying to provide a lot of support. Each one of these, they're typically pretty short lessons that can be paired together. So your lessons are going to be anywhere from less than 20 minutes, some that are 20 to 30. You might see some that are 30 to 40 or 40 plus. But we've really kind of built these in a way that teachers can flexibly implement these within the classroom. Going back to our early elementary level here, I'll focus on our second resource. These are instructional strategies. These are designed to be a little bit more flexible than the lesson minis. They're not necessarily paired with any specific Britannica content, but they can be applied across a wide range of different content as well. So within this, you'll see something like these hexagonal clusters. It'll show you what grade level these are built for, what the point is to acquire vocabulary, what materials you'll need, and then just a procedure for how you can introduce this resource into the classroom as well as vary this for different groups. So again, a little less content, a little less kind of structure to these, but they're designed to be a little bit more flexible with your students. And then finally, our graphic organizer piece. This is a very popular piece of what is currently known as our Britannica Asset Library. This is just graphic organizers designed to really be flexibly used to introduce different concepts with students. I particularly like this one here. Really simple graphic organizer, but if I use this See, Think, Wonder chart, can display an image to students, ask them to write down, what do you see in this image? What do you think about this image? And then what questions you have? What do you wonder? And really kind of building that content out with students using the content from Britannica and your other trusted sources as well. I did once do a session where I shared our graphic organizers in the asset library at the beginning of a session when I was working with library media specialists. And one of the ladies in the room, I don't think she heard a word I said for the rest of the session because she just sat there and pointed and clicked and downloaded all of the PDFs to her device. But when she left the room, she said it was the best professional development that she'd ever been to. So the graphic organizers we have are very popular. But again, designed to be really flexibly implemented. And as Christy said, we do have a large bank of those already that are being moved from our asset library to Teach Britannica, and we are developing more. So we are continuing to create content. What you see on Teach Britannica today is only really the tip of the iceberg of what's coming. Our team is working really hard to develop more evidence-based strategies and content that can be used in your classrooms or in your media center. So that takes us to the end of our content here today. So I will open things up if anyone has any additional questions. Mike, Christy, Jeremy, if there's been any other questions in the chat, please let me know. But we will open things up. So if you have any questions, please in the chat or the Q&A, let us know what your thoughts are, your questions, your feedback as well. Yeah, so the asset library, I see a question here referring to the asset library. So if you go to britannicaeducation.com, that is where we currently have our asset library. And I'll put the link in the chat here, or Mike, if you don't mind, could you pull that link down? But it's within our resources on britannicaeducation.com. We have a lot of classroom resources. There are some Britannica School scavenger hunts. There's some promotional materials that you can use to promote Britannica in your school as well, in addition to those graphic organizers that I referenced. So the link is in the chat there, britannicaeducation.com/resources, and then a whole lot of other characters there. But clicking on that link will take you right to that asset library that I referenced. Yes. The chat, we are saving this into an FAQ. So we will follow up with folks and provide some of these links as well as a copy of the recording. So anyone who attended today, you'll get a copy of the recording. If your colleagues registered and couldn't make it, they will get a copy as well. And if they didn't register, please feel free to share the recording with them also. We really want to get the word out as much as we possibly can about what is coming. Other questions that have come through, and I have referenced this a few times. So I mentioned the changes that you saw with the article format and the interface of Britannica School. We are targeting next week for that to go live. So the week of August 19th, we are working internally to determine the specific launch date, and we will communicate that out to folks as best we can. But you can expect this content to launch next week within Britannica School. No changes, no updates, no logins, anything that you need to do there. The next time you go in, once that goes live, you will see all of those changes in your view of Britannica School. Other question that came through, some folks have kind of talked about or asked what prompted the redesign. So something that I did try to touch on a little bit in the session, but we really wanted to make the content in Britannica School easier to process for younger learners, right? And really appeal to those younger learners. So really making sure everything was very intentional in terms of the way that the pages were designed to make sure that this content is easier and more accessible to students.
We also took cues from looking at today's modern classrooms and kind of mobile interactions online that we know that teens and kids are familiar and comfortable with, to help also drive engagement with students at that level and kind of meet them more where they are. With the brighter colors and kind of cleaner interfaces and kind of a more mobile-like device, particularly around things like the controller.
Thank you, Jeremy. All right, well, I'm not seeing any additional questions here. Like I said, if you have any questions after the fact, I believe everyone actually has my personal email as part of the Zoom setup here, but I am going to put in the training@eb.com email address in the chat. Oh, I do see another question here. How soon will guided tours and promotional materials be updated to reflect these changes? As soon as possible. We are working to get those up to speed. What you will see on our Britannica tutorial site, so we do have an asynchronous tutorial for Britannica School. And Mike, if you can pop that in the chat, that would be helpful as well. You will see until we have that updated, and it will be soon. I do have a short preview video at the top of that really goes through everything we talked about today in 4 minutes, but it goes through the different article changes and all that. But we are working really hard to get these updated as soon as we possibly can. Promotional materials will come after the webinar along with the recording link. And then the guided tours and tutorial videos, those will be updated as soon as we can. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining today's call. I know we had it scheduled till 10:45 Central, but no one's ever complained when I've wrapped up a few minutes early. So thank you. I appreciate your time. Appreciate the feedback and the questions as well. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we're more than happy to help you. But thank you very much, and I hope all of you have a great rest of your day.